Hello and welcome to a very special and slightly technically advanced version of View from Luffield. As you can see, neither of us, or not three of us, are in the same room. Let's hope this works. But let's talk about 2026 reg, shall we, guys?
Yes. Yeah, so again, as Phil just mentioned, we are going to try and do this a little bit differently just because we're not all together. So do apologise if this doesn't come through right, but this is a test, so we shall see. So 26 regs, who's done their homework?
Well, second time in a row, I have notes. All right.
I don't mind admitting that my phone is currently resting on my laptop with Google open right behind me. Says F1 2026 regulations. So I've got an AI overview of me right behind me.
Well, because this is my kind of exciting bit now, because we're talking rules and regulations and technical stuff, I've broken it down into 3 categories.
Yeah.
In terms of doing my homework, my phone is resting on my laptop. And I've got Google open behind me with F1 2026 regs. So I know a little bit about it, but I haven't got that good of a memory to store it. So I do, but I'll let Phil take the lead there. He knows what he's talking about.
I was going to say, we're going to come to you in a minute, Anthony, because you're not getting away with answering if you've done your homework or not. But I have, because... Go on, in fact, no, let's start now. Have you done your homework, Anthony?
I have, yeah.
Oh, look at...
I've done my homework today. I've done a little bit of research onto what they are and what they mean and what we should bring. So yeah, I've got some measurements.
The car.
This is View from Luffield After Dark.
We'll call it Park Ferme.
Yeah. They're getting, basically, the bottom line is they're getting shorter and thinner. So, female fans aren't going to be happy.
I wish I could go thinner, but there we go.
The modern man problem, innit?
Yeah. And balder as well somewhere. It says the car's getting balder. I don't know what that's got to do.
Is that a hint at the other two on this? Yeah.
Listen, you just be very... Listen, this is classed as a form of work. So that could be classed as a form of sexual harassment. Just remember that.
Workplace bullying.
Just remember that.
Who wants to start genuinely with the first thing then? Because I do have a way to start this, which does get us into, which I think is one thing. All right, I'll start it. I think one thing that everybody heard we weren't going to have in 2026 that was probably disappointing to everybody is that we weren't going to have DRS. But it would be interesting to know. Obviously, do the people who watch the podcast, the Formula One fans, understand what we're replacing DRS with? Because it's actually effectively it's not no DRS. It's effectively DRS whenever you want, and it's 2 helpings of DRS.
It's to do with the MGU, isn't it? MGUK. I mean,
it's part of that because there's 2. From what I understand, the 2 configurations are allowed, aren't they, on the car? Yeah. So you've got your fuel saving, probably standard race setting.
Do you want the official names to prove I've done my homework?
Go on.
You've got Z mode and X mode.
Or that's a show off.
Considering Formula One's gone incredibly American, you got Z mode. Z mode and X mode. So effectively Z mode.
Oh, Elon Musk had to get in on this, didn't
he? Yeah. So Z mode effectively you've got active aero in the front and rear wings. So you basically Z mode, because I'm not American. So Z mode is going to be when the active aero on both the front and the rear wing is closed, which will be effectively, if you want to compare that to now, which will be effectively the Formula One car going at normal pace. X mode is going to be effectively what would now be open in DRS, and it will be simultaneous. So the driver activates X mode, that opens a flap in not only the rear wing but in the front wing as well. A much smaller flap. Pardon me. So we're not talking about an extra 30-40 kilometers an hour like we have at some circuits with DRS, but you are talking. And the benefit to this, I think, is that a driver can effectively open it whenever they want. And it's going to use a little bit more of the driver's sort of know-how. I'll be honest, when I first heard that there was no DRS, I was a little bit disappointed. But replacing it with something that's effectively more DRS and you can use it whenever you want, I don't Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they certainly don't have to do it. So there's no regulations of having to do it when you're a second behind the car in front, nor can it only be activated in certain parts of the track, I believe.
I think there's going to be zones still, from what I've read. See, this is the problem. I think the biggest issue we have is these have been put forward as regulations. I can't find anywhere that they're 100% confirmed. That's the weird thing, is that we're building up to a season where I think there's still a few grey areas. I'm sure they've said somewhere where they will be used like DRS zones.
Right, okay.
But I suppose if you're talking active aero and stuff like that, the zones could be bigger. You could be talking all the way, as an example, you could be talking all the way through Maggots, Beckett's, down the hanger straight into, is it Stower Club? I can never remember which one it is at the bottom. Someone will correct me, and that's so embarrassing for a Silverstone fan.
We'll let you know in 2 weeks.
Winter Club.
Yeah.
Oh, look at Phil.
Stowe Winter Club. Yeah.
Thank you.
And the reason I remember that is because the first time I went, I sat at Club, and that was the last corner before. That's the only time. That's the only way I remember it. But
you just googled it, don't lie.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Someone's got AI running in the background. I mean, So I mean, to take into account the big things that are changing. We'll go through the rest, or I'll go through the rest in a minute. But the massive things for me are the drop in the DRS, which they've got to improve. The cars can't follow, or DRS is too strong and you drive straight past them. It's never worked 100% as it DRS. I think we can agree that it's awful at places like Monaco. The big one for me, and it's only because it's me, is that they're getting rid of all of the ground effect.
Yeah, I found that.
Yeah, I did see that.
I found that quite interesting.
Because when this generation of car came in, the ground effect was massive, and it showed that the cars could follow each other. If you remember, I can't remember when these came in, but it was such a close race. The cars were following within a second, 2 seconds of each other, and it was unseen.
22. I get the current range is 22.
I get that things have changed. Teams have got wise. Teams have got clever. Teams know how to create dirty air, so they're unfollowable. There's a new word for you.
On that, because you've just brought up dirty air. So if you look at the 26 regs, it looks like everything's pointing towards trying to reduce dirty air. So if you look, we've got narrower front wings.
Yep.
And the front wing end plates are designed in a way that's meant to pass any dirty air that is actually produced by the car in front. So we'll go for the front of the car. The front wing end plates are curved in a way. I am going to have some graphics coming on the screen that show you what the front wing for the FIA's officially released 26 regs car. But the idea of those is that it's meant to any dirty air that does pass, it's meant to pass it over and away past the front wing end plates to not affect the car. The problem with that, for me, is we now don't have wheel covers in 26. So any dirty air that you have got from the car in front is going to be basically thrown down the front wing onto your front tyres.
They've reduced the tyre sizes, haven't they?
No, the tyres
tyres have got narrower.
Tyre size is narrower.
Well, again, it goes to show it all, because what I read earlier says it's the same.
They're 25 mil narrower on the front tyre, 30 mil narrower on the rear, but still 18 inch.
Yeah.
Which, again, it brings you back into Formula One's built in a way that can be passed on to road cars. Hence the 18-inch wheels that they put on originally, because most modern cars run on at least 18s. There's always going to be a change of car or someone who doesn't before anyone calls it out. And that's what Formula One's always been built on, is anything that they do on an F1 car can be passed on to a road car. So I get the narrower tyres. It gives Pirelli a purpose. There is no car out there that's got a wheel as wide as the rear tyre on an F1 car.
Yeah.
So narrowing it brings it more in line.
A tractor, maybe.
Well, yeah. But the narrower wheels, again, less dirty air. A conventional diffuser is what the FIA have announced it'll be. What that means, last time they attempted this was 2009, and certain teams who went on to walk the championship completely misunderstood conventional and built a double diffuser.
Yeah, because they weren't in 2009. They weren't very stringent with when they said it should be a conventional diffuser. What they actually said was it should be, but if you want to do whatever you want, feel free. And Ross Brawn went, fine, I'll do whatever I want.
Hold
Here's
my
a massive
beer.
loophole.
I'm going to win the championship.
Yeah, I'm going to walk it.
Hold my beer. Let's go.
Yeah. The shorter, narrower, lighter cars. Wheelbase is shrinking by 20 centimeters, or if you're the FIA, 200 mil.
Yeah, I read that. I thought, why we say, is it just to make it seem like it's bigger?
Yeah, and 100
We
millimeters
should use
narrower.
that, gents. Hey, look, it's 40 millimeters. How impressive!
Oh, what a dream that'd be.
I mean, to be fair, yeah, I'm not picking up on any of it. It's also got to be 100 mil narrower,
I think,
which is
well,
the size
I was going to say that the size is the big one, and I suppose that's what she said. No, the size is the big one, because I suppose if we're gonna basically what we've discussed so far. Just give Phil a minute.
You gotta give me a minute. It's gonna be
what we've discussed.
Sorry.
What we've discussed so far is that effectively what we're trying to get to is, and this is obviously going to be the difficulty for the teams. What we're trying to get to is we're trying to get cars that are easier to follow, so that we produce less dirty air. Because obviously, like you said about the diffuser, there's also, if you notice, the rear wings have become, there's none of this curvature, which the teams are saying is what produces most of the dirty air. What we've now got is effectively back to what you had in the 80s and the 90s, a very simplistic rear wing
and narrower.
Sorry, yeah. I'm sure I wrote down somewhere what the difference is in the. No, I didn't.
30% less downforce. There you go.
That I did write that down as well. That seems.
That's massive.
It's huge. Don't get me wrong. It feels a little bit. Everything else about the regs, obviously we're all going to wait and see in March 26 as to whether or not these actually work, and arguably next season will be a testing ground for everybody. We won't know the truth. Look at the 22 regs. It was only really 24 where we got to the point where everybody had figured them all out to the point where we felt we needed another change. So this will take a while for people to figure out. The one thing that I think the teams won't be happy with, and everything that I've read today backs this up, is that the downforce issue, the significant drop in downforce, is a real problem for the teams, and that's what I think they're struggling to get their head around. How do they actually make this viable?
Yeah.
Well, my question is this 30% less downforce when it's in active aero mode, or is it? Yeah, where's the reduction measured?
So from what I read earlier, sorry, Z mode.
Don't give up with this.
No, I'm going to stick to this. The Z mode is when we're meant to have the more downforce. X mode is when you will have the reduction. Now, from everything I've read, I can't figure out if Z mode is 30% less, which would then, in theory, mean that X mode would be more than 30%. If you get what I mean, because X mode is almost the X mode is almost DRS, so that would decrease downforce even more. So I don't know if 30% less is when it's in the X mode or Z mode. In which case, if it's X, I don't know what the reduction is in Z. Does that make sense?
I've got a question for the FIA. Y mode.
Why? Yeah. Are they trying to overcomplicate it, do you think? It does. I mean, you've got one system now, DRS. Okay, it doesn't work brilliantly, does it? Sometimes, but it just feels very overcomplicated. Very overcomplicated.
I suppose if you look at any hypercar that's on the road, and I know there's not many, and I know that we don't drive hypercars, but every car you look at, you're looking at the Ferrari F80 that's come out, the McLaren P1, for example. They all have active aero.
Yeah.
Why are Formula One falling behind on this? It should be the pinnacle of technology.
It should. And I'm going to throw this out there just because I think Phil Egan's got a point. with overcomplicated it. My thing with the X mode and the Z mode is if you're watching it on TV, right, at the comfort in your own home, and you've got it on Sky Sports or whatever else, and we all see the dashboard now that they have when you're riding on board with the car, and it tells you if they're on the brake or the throttle or they've got DRS activated or whatever, so we can see all that. If they've now got a graphic that will say if they're on X or Y mode, whatever, and if there's only a certain percentage of the lap that they can use it for, and it tells us how much they've got left and all the rest of it, that's fine, because if you're watching at home, you can keep on top. And again, it's similar to sort of football when we don't get the VAR decisions on the big screen. If you're in the ground, you feel almost left out of what's going on. And again, you go back to if you're at Silverstone in 26, you don't have a clue if Leclerc's chasing Bortoletto. You do.
I'm not even rising to this. I was actually trying to work out which one of my children I have to sell so I can get to Silverstone in 26. To be honest with the prices, but that's another rant.
No, but sorry, my point is, if you've got Piastri chasing Verstappen for the win, whatever, and Piastri's in X mode, but Max is in Z mode, how on earth are you in the grandstand meant to know?
You're not,
or is it just a case of just I don't know?
I
can fix overcomplicating it?
I can fix that. If they're in X mode, the rain light on the rear wing, the strips, flashes green. If they're in Z mode, it flashes red or purple. Or give us a colour, a lovely blue and purple colour. Because
this might sound a bit stupid, but let's say you're in that moment. You're in that moment of going after each other in the race. If Z and X mode is a mode on your steering wheel, which you sort of presume it would be.
Yeah.
Now, what happens then if you need Z mode, which is more powerful, and you accidentally press Y mode? What I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking that, but human error can kick in. You press Y mode, and then all of a sudden, is it going to lose your race, or is it going to be two buttons that are like pretty much do the same job?
Remember Baku? Baku on the restart, when was it 2021? Where Hamilton went for the restart and he'd not turned off brake magic and he threw it. It's driver error. If you get it wrong, you get it wrong. That's the way I see it. I don't get wrong. I don't want that, but tough.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
and to be fair,
pretty quick.
To be fair though, we've got overtake mode on the steering wheels at the moment, and you never really hear of a driver accidentally not turning overtake mode off going into a corner. I'm not talking about DRS. I'm talking about the extra curves. You never hear them, because you imagine if you've got that coming out of a braking zone, that's going to throw your back end completely out. So we never hear about making that mistake. So I would argue this shouldn't, but I don't know. I think the bottom line is what it looks like we're trying to get to with these cars is it looks like everything's angling towards making them slightly narrower and shorter, which obviously if anybody watched the Monaco video that me and Phil Egan did, we were basically saying that track is completely useless unless you've got narrower, shorter cars. So that's what we want.
I mean, yeah, we want that, but then, going back to that, is it going to be enough for Monaco?
Oh, no, it's not.
I still don't think it will be.
No. And I'm not talking specifically about Monaco. Monaco's just a write-off for me personally as a track. I just don't think you've got nothing to do. But what we're getting towards is narrower cars, shorter cars. They're trying to work towards a way of producing less dirty air, which should
more
mean
nimble as well.
Yeah, and it should make it more easier to follow the car behind. Therefore, you should be able to get into a position where you're going into corners closer so that you can actually attempt the attack. If you have got this X and Z mode, that if it works, and obviously I don't know what the rules and regs are around using that, whether you can use it as much as you want, whether you can only use it for 20% of a lap, whether it's like the overtake button. I know it's not a power thing, it's a thing, but whether if you use it when you've got none left, will it not open? All this sort of stuff I suppose we don't know, but the bottom line is what we're getting to is hopefully, because the 22 regs have worked, let's be honest. The sport pre-2022, I know we had the Verstappen dominance, but even when Verstappen was battering everybody else, there was a really good midfield battle, to be fair, at least, which was quite interesting to watch. And I think the 22 regs have worked in regards to getting those the cars closer together. I just hope that this is the next step to improve racing, because that's what we all want. Let's be honest.
We just want cars that will go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say we've touched on the chassis a lot there, which is the main. That's what you're going to see. But there's quite a few power unit changes as well, and I was just going to not to be the boring one who talks techie. So, but I thought I was just going to rattle through them and then pick up, on anything that we wanted to discuss after.
Yeah.
Well, look at me being the sensible one. 100% sustainable fuel from next year, which is amazing. But I want to ask why we're not going back to V10s then, if we're having sustainable fuel.
We're still on 6s, aren't we?
We're on 6s, and there's a 50-50 split between electric power and the internal combustion engine.
And it's a 1.6 litre engine.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a hell of a 1.6 litre engine, and I'd take that in any family car. But I feel like there's an over-reliance now on electric power, and as we've said in the past, there's already a Formula E.
Yeah. And I think the other thing as well is if they do want to make it sustainable and keep it 50-50 with the power unit and the ICE, fine, do that. I haven't got a problem with that. Most cars on the road are hybrids now. Fine, but can we not make someone cleverer than me will answer this, but can we not make the petrol side, if you like, call it for what it is? Can we not make that? Yeah, can we not make that a V8?
Oh,
can we not? At least
maybe a 10, but I mean, what I'm saying is we've had V6s. We can't. I would argue that they'll probably struggle to go from a 6 straight to a 10. Can we not gradually go up? Because then you've got all your sustainable stuff. You've got your hybrid power. You're doing your right thing for the environment. But for the people in the crowd, it'll have that roar again. That like when you used to come away from Phil Brown, we used to go when we were kids, and at ages 7, 8, 9, whatever else, you'd come home and you have an headache for about 6 months just because you were at Silverstone. And that's
I failed the medical at work after listening to the old V10 engines. I went in for a hearing test outside the office and completely failed because they kept saying lift your hand up when you hear a beep in these headphones, and I sat there still for 3 minutes without lifting my hand up. I missed 27 beeps that day.
Still with the headphones now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what we want. That's like the grunt. You can take away the issues it was having because what it was in the 90s is no good for obviously sustainable sport and stuff, and they wouldn't be able to let it happen. They just wouldn't. Let's be honest. But give us, at least even if it's manufactured, give us that noise again. Give us that grunt, because that's what it is.
Well, that leads me on to the next point, because a lot of the reason for me why the grunts dropped is that there's an over-reliance on the turbo.
Yeah.
Turbos are quieter than a big barky engine, aren't they? Now, they've increased hybrid power, apparently, in terms of, the numbers that it can produce. Great. Like you say, a lot of road cars are hybrid. I get that. It looks like they're stopping the recovery from the turbocharger, though.
For what reason?
I don't know. Now, I could have misread that, so don't quote me, and if anyone wants to correct me. But if that's the case...
I've got it here behind me. It says increased electrical power. The electrical motor output will increase significantly to 350 kilowatts, approximately 469 brake horsepower.
I mean, that's beefy, but I'm sure that it's something about the reducing or removing the recovery from the turbocharger. I might have misread that. I'm sure. But if that's the case, then get rid of the turbocharger. Let's have a naturally aspirated, big, noisy engine with some really mega hybrid stuff on it.
And that's the point. If you're going to reduce the recovery from the turbo, then why? Unless that is with an end goal to eventually not rely on it at all.
But all road cars do.
Well, fair, yeah.
All road cars, he says, with a completely electric car.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that. They're looking at trying to reduce costs for suppliers. Trying to attract more manufacturers. Apparently, 6 engine manufacturers have signed up to these new rules.
Yeah, and this is what I was going to ask you, because my next question actually, because I knew we were going to discuss the power unit elements a bit. Who are we thinking? So your 6 power unit suppliers for next year then. So you got Red Bull, which is obviously in unison with Ford.
Red Bull, Ford, yeah.
Yeah, you've got Honda, you've got Mercedes, you've got Ferrari, you've got Alpine, and you've got Audi, of course, coming in.
And Alpine dropping.
Alpine aren't. Yeah, Alpine are using Mercedes.
Yeah, Alpine are going to Mercedes next year.
So who's the sixth then? Because what I saw earlier said Alpine is one of the six.
General Motors.
Coming in for Cadillac.
Yeah, no, they've got to use a Ferrari power unit apparently on the first few seasons, but their aim and one of the agreements is that they will be a manufacturer by a certain time.
So there's only 5 next year, or Alpine one of the 6 next year?
Only 5 next year. I'm sure Alpine are going to Merc.
Yeah, Alpine have stopped. As far as I'm concerned, Alpine have stopped producing their own power units. And they're taking on Mercedes next year.
Take that from it then. So you've got the 5 then. There's a Red Bull, Honda, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Audi. Who of those 5 do we think is going to grab this best? And then follow-up question: struggle most?
Honda. I think Honda will grab it. Yeah, I personally think Honda will grab it the most. Just because, going back a while ago, Honda tried to leave, or Honda left, didn't they? Who did they leave?
McLaren.
They left McLaren because
Formula Don't remind me.
GP2 engine.
You're right. You're right.
It wasn't even a GP2 engine. It was a go-kart 4.
I enjoyed those years.
I remember them leaving because it didn't meet their sustainable needs.
Yes,
or
we waved them away.
We waved them away, and then. So I just feel like they've been developing this sort of stuff for quite longer than others. I might be wrong, but I think
Red Bull and Ford will pick it up.
With Honda and the power of Adrian Newey, I think you might see.
I think it's too steep a learning curve for Ford to do anything, but I probably will be proven wrong. I think Mercedes are going to land on the mark. I think historically, any time an engine rule has come in, Ferrari have gone to the back of the pack.
Yeah, and this is why I'm asking. I think we can all agree, and this is no disrespect. I think we can all agree that the answer to question B of who will fail this is Ferrari. And I think the problem you've got, and we've said this a million times, Phil, is that Ferrari just don't know how to make a 1.6 litre engine. Yeah. Is the bottom line is the bottom line of it, and that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. But every time we've had a reduction in the engine size, they've like you said, they've always struggled to get a handle on it, and especially now with this, they're not massive in the hybrid market either. I think that's probably a sin if you go to Italy and if you go to. I mean, you've been to Maranello.
They don't like the idea of hybrid or electric.
Did you get chased out with pitchforks for saying you had an electric car?
I got spat on when I was getting into the.
But I think that
stoned as you're walking through the street.
That was it. Yeah. I got given a trough to eat from instead of a plate.
And that's a point. I agree with you. I think Ferrari will struggle. I really do. I do. I'm with you on that. I think it will be a big struggle for Ferrari.
It's just not in their nature.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but
it's not in their nature to make electric cars.
No, I think from all the manufacturers. It doesn't fit Ferrari's brief for engines as much as anybody else that's in there or anybody else that's signing up. Ferrari do not want to build a 1.6. What they do want is some 4 litre with a hybrid system that just adds power.
Yeah.
Although counter argument, Le Mans was last weekend before. It was a Ferrari hybrid that won. And came 3rd and came 4th. That's 3 years in a row they've won Le Mans.
And they've won races in the Formula 1 hybrid era. I just think I think you're right. I think they just tend to, it's almost like a change to the regulations tends to catch them on their heels.
Yeah. And it can't this year because there'll be a lot of sackings in Maranello.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they've waited. If you consider the 22 regulation era is obviously about to end, 3 years of that. I think Ferrari haven't done anything in that 3-year period of any note. I mean, I know they finished second in the constructors last year, but for a team as big as Ferrari to be congratulating themselves with second place, that's not where they need to be. And now you've got certainly Charles Leclerc is a phenomenal driver, as we've said many a time before. But now that you've got Lewis Hamilton on board, he hasn't got, He hasn't got 4 years to try and get his head around these regs.
He hasn't got breathing space, does he?
No. So they know they need to land on the feet. I think you're right. I would, if I had to bet now, I think Ferrari would struggle with these regs. I think Audi, it's fascinating.
They're going to struggle regardless.
Yeah, exactly. I think they might be on top of certain bits. I think they'll have like an impressive power unit, for instance, or something like that, or they'll have really got a handle on the chassis side of the regs, but yet the other one will let them down. I think they'll struggle to put it together, but I think they'll get one side really well. If that makes, I think they've had so long to focus on them. They'll get one bit brilliant, but they'll.
The first thing that will get them will be reliability, because as much as you see the odd engine pop, and the amount of torque and power and just energy that goes through a power unit in Formula One it's not seen anywhere else. Even in Le Mans, it's not. Yeah. They're not pushed like they are on a quality lap in Monza or. So I think Audi might turn up with a reasonably good package. They've got some clever people. They've got good drivers. One good driver, Nico.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to do that.
I think it'll be one of those frustrating seasons where they'll almost be like Haas's first year in my eyes. They'll be bottom end of the points, challenging. Engine will go pop. They'll fluff a pit stop, which Sauber are known for. And I think it'll be a frustrating year for him, but one that hopefully is promising, because Audi will be very quick to pull the plug on anything if this doesn't go right. Sorry, just I'm aware of time, and we did say we were going to keep this one as not so hour long. I suppose in summary, I'm actually quite looking forward to these regs. I think there's a few bits that prove to me why it's better. Mm-hmm. The FAA has to change the rules every so often. If not, these will be spaceships. We're all aware of that. They've got to slow these cars down because engineers will make them fast. That's what they do. And with risk comes danger. They're even the bits that we haven't pointed out that's quite interesting. They're improving the safety structure again. The safety cell's going to be even stronger, which is phenomenal work. And
makes you wonder how they can make it stronger, doesn't it? I think when you look at what happened with Grosjean in 21, and then you just look at how incredible that kept him alive, and then you just how can you make that better? But you obviously can, and I think I just think it shows how far the sport has come. If you sort of you go right back to obviously Senna's crash, and it shows probably how dangerous Formula One was then. And it's probably just as dangerous now, but it's a lot safer. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, the safety's got to come with the speed. And if you look at the speed Senna unfortunately took the corner that he passed away on now. The modern day cars, even though the FIA spend every year trying to slow them down, is still going past maybe 30, 40, 50 kilometers an hour quicker than Senna could have. Yeah. So the spaceships now, they're not cars, they're four-wheeled spaceships, and they have to do something to slow them down. I think this is positive, barring the over-reliance on electric, which, like I say, I think we've got Formula E. They need to be careful where we go with this. Restructuring the calendar, I know we laughed about it last week, but that makes more sense to me. Planes emit more than the very 100% sustainable fuel that Formula One will be running with next year. They're still aiming for net zero by 2030. They're all positive steps. As a Ferrari fan, I'm petrified because we could end up at the back again like 09. But I think it's positive, and there we go. That's my input. I think I'm hesitant on a few, but all in all, I want smaller, faster cars. I want overtaking. I want less overtaking that looks manufactured because someone's got the front wing wide open. I want proper racing again. And if we can push towards that, I'm all for it.
I agree, and I think the auto aero, if it is a case of it's not in specific areas and there's no limit to when you can use it, I think that adds another little bit of a test of the driver's skill. You've got to know when to activate it and when to try and catch your opponent out, and if you can get it a split second before they do, I'm with you. I think effectively the very, very quick summary is I think the new chassis reduces the drag by 55%. That's huge. That is massive. Yeah. And if that means that they can follow each other a little bit better, we get more overtaking. You got narrower narrower, smaller cars, which means it should be easier to. You're not looking at some. It opens up some corners that maybe for the last 3 years, even longer, we've looked at and gone, that's not an overtaking space anymore. But whereas in like the 80s it maybe was, in the 90s it was. So I'm with you. I think it's positive. I think we will start the start of next season with a lot of DNFs. I think there'll be a lot of mechanical issues where we see. Next season won't be a highest ever point scorer for a world champion and all that sort of stuff, because we will see a lot of people DNF. I think. I hope I'm wrong, obviously. But yeah, for me, I'm the same. I 100% agree. Excited but hesitant about one or two of the bits. Phil?
Yeah. No, you just want to see better racing, don't you? You just want to see better wheel-to-wheel racing, and I think that's why we fell in love with the sport. That's why we enjoy the sport so much. Is because you want to see that wheel-to-wheel contact, and I sometimes feel like the cars have taken away from the driver's skills, if that makes sense. Because you're not what it's sort of, hopefully not strip it back to basics, but you want to see the driver make more decisions, not run away. And I certainly don't want someone to run away with it. I'm not. I don't. No. None of us like that. Not anybody watching Formula One will hand on heart. You could go to Austria and ask all the Max Verstappen fans, and if they're racing fans, Max won the race by 30 seconds. What do you think? Not one of them would say, "Yeah, no, I enjoyed that."
Yeah.
We don't enjoy it. And don't get me wrong, when Lewis did it, Lewis was doing it in his time at Mercedes, and he's winning championships. But I personally don't want to see that. I want to see all it would be 22 cars, won't it? All 22 cars. You don't want to, I'm not saying whether we'll get there, but you don't want to see them overtaking and overlapping each other, and you want them within one congested bunch fighting against each other. That's what we want. And then what you then want, it opens it all up in terms of our viewing experience, I think, as well, because you'll have a fight at the front, and then you'll have a fight in the middle trying to get to the front. You'll have a fight at the back trying to get to the middle. It's got to be better. It's got to be better.
Yeah.
Agreed. I will point out, by the way, it's another episode we've done where we've discussed something in 2026 and we've failed to bring up Cadillac. I think it shows that no one on this podcast is extremely excited. We will, however, I'm sure we will before the end of the season when a little bit more about what Cadillac are doing is brought up.
One question. What will they bring to the sport?
American. Hot dogs.
Eagles. Perez.
I know we don't normally swear on this podcast, but what they'll bring is America. Yeah. That's what they'll bring to the sport.
And thank you, viewers who have tuned in and love the way that we don't swear.
I will blank that out. I'll blank that out when we go live. I might have Team America characters, copyright aside. Okay, so thank you for joining us on this episode, this special episode, the way we've done it. We will, if anything changes, obviously, with regards to the 2026 regs, because some of it's a little bit grey at the minute, as we mentioned with the Auto Aero as an example. So if anything changes between now and the end of the season, we will bring it up, no doubt, on one of our episodes. As for us, you will see us again next week in this format or in another format, and it will be two of the three of us when we discuss what happens in Austria. So join us for that, the Spielberg Grand Prix. One of my personal favourites. I actually absolutely love this track just because it takes about 25 seconds to do a lap, and I think it's class.
How many leaving the track penalties will there be?
I think there's going to be 4.2 million.
I think there'll be one for every resident of Austria.
Yeah.
Not trying to be the one that keeps a little bit of professionalism here, but Ant versus Phil predictions.
We've already done it, mate.
Yeah, we had.
Which can we just say, Phil Brown goes to show that this guy doesn't watch our episodes.
I'm sure you did. Did you do the last one?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Mate, I had a lot go on last week.
I
had a lot.
Flabbergasted.
Come on, I didn't remember that. Sorry.
As a reminder, Frank v Phil, some of our actual fans will know this. Phil has gone for. Is he hiding now behind?
Yeah.
Hey, actually, don't show her to Zach Laurent. You might fancy a bit. I've lost where we're at. I've gone for Oscar Piastri. For Andy, Phil for Austria. I've gone for Oscar Piastri. Phil has gone for. I say the hometown man. He's not really, but they've taken him on as his own. Max Verstappen. So, yeah. So join us again next week. Go on, Phil. Sorry, I thought you were going to say something.
I was just going to say one other thing we will mention next week is the one after Austria is Silverstone. We've got to try and do something completely different that weekend. We'll fill you in a little bit more next time.
Yes, yeah, stay posted because we might not fill you in if we decide that it's too much hard work for us. But yeah,
Phil might be doing it all on his own.
It'll be fantastic. It's going to be great. You guys are there live. I'm back at home. I've even booked time off work to be at home.
So, I mean, that's dedication.
I've
not even booked time off work and I'm there.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, we're going to have to explain this to the bosses.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for joining us for this week. We will be back next week when we review the Austrian Grand Prix. As for us now, thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.